What is going on, y'all? We're back. People are tired of working jobs and all of their money that they're earning is going to bills. Bills and debt. Debt and bills. Very little to no money left over to actually do things you want to do, buy things you want sometimes. And if we're really being honest, there's not really a lot of money left over to pay off debt, let alone invest for the future, put money into the stock market or a Roth IRA or, an IRA, there's no money for investments, to save. There's no money to save. And when that is how things are, you can see why people aren't really motivated to work, because people are not seeing the fruit of their labor at all. They're just constantly working week to week, day to day, month to month, year to year, and having the same results. So it doesn't really surprise me that people are tired of working. I pretty much know, based off of my full-time job, that the second pay period of every month sucks. We're paid bi-monthly, so we're either paid the 15th and the 30th, or obviously if the 15th and the 30th falls on a weekend or a holiday, we will be paid a little earlier, a couple of days earlier. So I pretty much know the last pay period, the second pay period, is going to be garbage, because the vast majority of my bills are due within the first week of each month. Now, what I typically try to do is, if I'm basing it off of just my full-time job, so the only income I'm looking at this moment is my full-time job, I try my best to halfies, aka pay half of the bills the first pay period and pay the remaining half the second pay period, if I'm basing it solely on my full-time job being the only source of income. Because it's just, you don't want to get paid and then literally within less than an hour lose over half of your income, because a lot of us do pay our bills using apps and online. So literally, you pay a car payment, car insurance, Wi-Fi, internet, water bill, utility bills, electricity, things of that nature. You can do all of that online a lot. Cell phone bills, etc. You can do a lot of that online. And it's just, yeah, you work and you literally lose over half of your check that quick. And, a lot of us are talking about this. I'm not saying this to be like, woe is me sob story, or, I'm not looking for a pity party or any of that. But I do recognize this is sad how this is the common experience for a lot of people in this current economy, in this current job force. It's just, wages never reflect the cost of living and never take inflation into consideration. And again, people will sit up and say things like, well, how come, you guys should reduce your debt, you should reduce your bills, which, yes, I agree. We should definitely reduce bills, reduce debt. And at the same time, I also recognize that's easier said than done. I've had people literally say, well, you should get rid of your car. Again, I can't get rid of my car. I have to go to work. I have to be able to take care of my mom, my granny, run their errands, get groceries, etc. Like, a lot of us can't just say screw the car. It would be nice. And mind you, I had a car that was paid off completely, but every time I turned around, I had to put money back into the car at the mechanics. And after a while, throwing thousands of dollars in a car that at this time and age is 16 years old is a waste of money. Okay, when you could just get a newer car that doesn't have all of these problems. And that's what I ended up doing 2.5 years ago. Nearly 3 years ago, come next year in February. And mind you, I didn't get a brand new car. I got a used vehicle. I got a 2020 Buick Encore GX, February of 2023. So, and that's what I'm paying on. And honestly, I do still personally see it as one of the worst decisions, because $441.29 a month to drive a car that's 5 years old, and then paying $169 a month for full coverage car insurance, I'm paying $608 to drive a car. Why are we paying what used to be considered rent to drive a car? I would rather save that $608 to pay off debt, to make investments, to save money. I would rather, or have money left over to do things that I want sometimes, instead of constantly having to throw it into paying for a car. So that I agree with. And at the same time, you gotta have reliable transportation. I mean, is that not one of the first questions a lot of employers ask? Is, do you have a source of reliable transportation? Which is hilarious, considering your average job doesn't pay us enough to have reliable transportation. Because a person should be able to afford a car without, losing during the vast majority of their income paying for it. Because between rent and car payments, that's where the vast majority of a lot of our money is going. It's not even going to the utilities or groceries or clothing, things of that nature. It is literally rent and car payments that's eating up a lot of our income. But again, like I said earlier, why are we paying what used to be considered rent to drive a car? Why are car payments so expensive? Why are they so high? Especially for a used vehicle. Why are we paying new vehicle prices to drive used cars? All of this is insane. When you actually sit down and think about it, it should not cost this much to live.